Something big is coming to Dinosauria, and it's not just our beautiful new entrance. Allosaurus, discovered in 1877, is going to be moving into a beautiful, elaborate carnivore house that we're going to build right here. The Allosaurus exhibit is going to be inspired by one of the most beautiful Victorian zoo buildings that I've seen, the Fauverie or Carnivore House at the Menagerie du Jardin des Plantes in Paris. It's actually slightly pre-Victorian. It was built in 1821, but that's certainly close enough for the style to match up. I've been lucky enough to visit it a couple of times. It is absolutely stunning, and it was designed to hold all the species of big cat. These days it obviously has slightly less animals in it, but we're going to build a new version of it and adapt it for just one giant animal, and you can see our size guide in the background there. The Allosaurus, our first big carnivore. And this is going to be, by quite some way, the most complex thing that we build in this park. I think it might be one of the most complex things we've ever built on the channel, to be honest. It's going to have an outdoor area, designed like a huge circular cage, and then an elaborate indoor area as well, full of all the decoration that you would expect in a Victorian building. So let's talk about the building. So we're going to start with the outdoor cage part first. I was really hoping there'd be a new small metal piece with no little bits sticking out of it in the new pack that we could use for this build, but nothing like that in there. But I remember the neon piece, which I think we've used before, which is what you can see on the left-hand side here. I've just shrunk it down and colored it as dark as it can go. We'll use that for the cage. And now we're building the bottom of the wall that the cage will sit on with a load of pieces, some of them from the new pack. And we'll make sure that the bars of the cage are going to be tall enough for Allosaurus to fit in. Had a big struggle with hitboxes in this build. So I think the way it works in this game is that each dinosaur is defined as being a certain size, from tiny up to huge or enormous or something. And the Allosaurus comes in at large. And basically all large dinosaurs seem to have the same hitbox in terms of what they can get through. So you can see the cage we're building here is significantly taller than the Allosaurus. I actually ended up having to go back and make it a bit taller than that for him to fit under it. For some reason, that's how the hitboxes work. But the end result is going to be well worth it. Absolutely love how this looks in the end. And moving on to the roof of the cage, we're using some of the mesh pieces here. This part of it is going to be very similar to the real building. What we're doing is just reconfiguring it so that rather than being split into 5 or 6 different cages, it's all going to be one massive cage so that we make sure the Allosaurus can get around here. So we'll make a big slice of it like this. We'll create one that has some more sturdy kind of supports on it using the girder pieces, and one that doesn't, so we can alternate between them. And then we're going to copy it and spin it around and put it in the position so that we can start duplicating it and creating a circle, which will be the end of the cage part of the building. And if we take a look at what we've got, there we go. That's the curved part of it done. And this is what the view is going to be like for the guests. Pretty impressive. And with the curve in, we've got a slice that doesn't have any extra girder pieces. We've created one that does have the extra girder pieces. And by alternating between these, we're going to be able to build the curved end of the cage. With that done, we'll delete the bits that we don't need. So we've just got the curve at the end, and then we'll start putting some straight bits in to get us down to the next part of the building where the guests will be able to go inside. That's going to be built out of brick. So this is the inside wall here. We're using some of the brick panels to create a really thin slice of wall so that we can rotate this around the inside curve of the cage that we created before. The smaller we create this part, then the smoother the curve is going to be. And we'll move on to the outside. So I want to use brick here. And the real building uses really small bricks. So the way that we're going to replicate that, because that looks really good, is to use the brick panels and shrink them as small as they go. So each individual brick is smaller. Makes it harder to build with, and it's going to take a bit more time. The end result is going to be well worth it. And with this part of the slice of the wall complete, we're going to add some trim to the top of it. This kind of ornamentation is a big feature of Victorian buildings. So this is one of the new wood trims from the Crocodilia Coast Pack. We're going to colour it darker so it looks a bit more like stone. And this is going to be right at the top of the building, so you're not going to notice. And then we're going to use some of the sandstone trim, which I think is base game, to create the rest of it. We've got this kind of white stripe at the top, and then differing shades of grey below it. We're going to use this panelled roof piece to start creating the roof as well. We don't need to go too fancy with this part of the roof. The really impressive part of roof is going to be the huge glass domes that make up the roof at the front of the building. This part of the building is very simple, flat roof. No need to spend too much time on that. We'll get these end bits of trim all tidied up, and then we're going to copy this wall and rotate it to create a diagonal entrance to get our guests into the building. And there we go. This is the entrance area to the building. It's got this strange diagonal wall where the front door goes, which is going to be all sorts of fun when we get inside the building and start building that, because yes, we are building an interior today. And then we're going to add in some quoins. I think that's how you pronounce it. These are the kind of large bricks that you see on the edges and the joins of walls. We're going to make these ourselves, just sinking some of these sandstone trim pieces into the wall, scaling them to 2 different sizes, and then we will run them up the wall to get this really nice design that's a big feature of Victorian buildings. And once we've got one of them in, we can just copy it and rotate it, and then bring it forward so it sticks through the wall on the other side. If you're enjoying this, by the way, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps the channel out. Make sure you subscribe so you can see the rest of the series. And there we go. That's our quoins done, looking nice. We'll have those on the other side as well, of course, and then we'll get some stairs in. We've got these big, impressive stairs in the plaza set, so we can recolor them so that they fit in nicely with all the rest of the limestone here. But what we can't do, unfortunately, is get rid of those giant gold lines, which really don't fit in the theme here. So we're going to cover them up. We'll get this tiny bit of sandstone here, make sure it's big enough to cover up the gold, and then we'll just do the same rotation trick that we did earlier to cover it all up. So if we copy one of these stairs back to the other side of the entrance wall, that'll give us a size guide, and then we can just copy the tiny bit of sandstone to the back, put it in a group, and then copy lots and lots of it, and there we go, stairs without any garish gold highlights on that you definitely wouldn't see in a building like this. We'll add some columns in, just with one of the temple pieces from the Rebirth pack, and I think it's just a normal concrete column. And then we'll use the stairs again, just flipped up the other way and recolored to film an impressive top to the entrance. And this is really starting to take shape now. We'll cover up that gold as well, and then we'll get on to the decorating. We'll use one of the fossil panels as a big impressive kind of piece of graphics at the top of the wall, and then we're going to use these brick columns, which actually have little bricks sticking out of them, which I really like, just to add a little bit more texture to the front of the building, and then we'll get a door in. This egg design door is such a good piece, and it really fits the theme here, so we'll use that, and we're going to use some big bits of stone to create a surround for the door based on the door at the real building. We'll have them really thick at the top and then a little thinner but still impressive at the sides to give a kind of top-heavy look to the door frame, which matches what they have in real life. A little bit of tidying up there. We'll add another fossil panel on top of it, and then a nice Victorian-style lamp. And then we can move on to a sign, or I guess it's more lettering in those days than a sign. I am so happy we finally have new fonts to play with in the new update. We got this serifed font, which is really useful for this park. And then we've got a tiny little font for light boxes as well, which is great. You've already seen the results at the beginning of the video, because Dinosauria now has beautiful lettering over the gate at the entrance to the park, which is something I've wanted to have there from day one, but we just didn't have a suitable font. And we're going to use that font again to make a sign for the Allosaurus to go at various points of the building. And then it's onto the interior. I think this might be the first interior we've ever built in this game, because we were playing in standard mode in Jurassic World Northwest. We needed viewing galleries and things like that to get the guests to actually see the dinosaurs. So most of the buildings had those hidden inside them, and no way to put an interior in. But in this sandbox zoo, we're not going to have any guests, seeing as there's no Victorian guests option. That would be great. Top hats and pipes, etc. And we're really going to go to town on this, because the interior of the real building this is based on is one of the most spectacular interiors I've ever seen in a zoo, or anywhere really. And we want to try and do that justice here. So we've got the basics of the floor in, and now we're going to make a circular standoff barrier to keep the guests away from the cage, which is going to be the inner wall of the Allosaurus enclosure. So the Allosaurus will be able to get inside, a very small inside area, typical of buildings of this period. And this is the view that the guests are going to see. It's going to be pretty spectacular. We also need some windows so that people would actually be able to see the interior. So we're going to add those on the outside. And to make them look realistic, we're going to recess them into the wall, like real windows pretty much always are. So the way to do that is, instead of using the big panels that we've been using, we're going to use some of these smallest wall panels, shrunk down as small as they go, to keep those tiny bricks that we've been using. And then we can build a little space for the window, so the window can actually sit behind the level of the wall. It takes a lot longer than just putting down a wall piece and slapping a window on it, but the end result is so much more realistic, so much more depth to the building as well. It's well worth doing. With the windows in, we can do some more work on the interior. So we're going to put a big set of planters in the middle of the hall. This is what they have in the real building. We're going to use these planter pieces here and one of the other smaller ones as well. And it also incorporates some seats Now, we don't need to use the real benches or even hide the real benches in here because we're not going to have any guests appearing on them. So we're going to use this piece from the Rebirth pack. It's one of the temple pieces to create some stone seats built into the planter. Pretty much just 2 pieces here, but that gives us the shape that we want. Okay, let's make that 3 because we've got that pattern on the other side, which doesn't really fit the vibe here. So we'll just cover that up. There we go. That's one of the benches done. And we'll also fill this planter that's full of soil with some gravel so it matches up with the other one that we've used. We'll drop some plants in. I was going to go with a T-Rex skeleton here because a skeleton feels much more appropriate than a bronze statue, but I couldn't live with it being the wrong species, so I replaced it with the Allosaurus statue in the end. Now we need to get our Allosaurus into the building, so we're going to put in a big brick archway at the back of the indoor area so they can get to and from the building. Although, once I add the Allosaurus in, I realised that as enormous as this archway is, it's about twice their width and about 50% taller than them. They can't get through it, which is due to the issue I mentioned earlier with the hitboxes, but that's fine. When we want him to be inside, we'll just pop a hole in the wall, get him in there and undo it. Drop a feeder in and cover it up with some stonework so it looks a bit more in keeping with the period. And then it's on to the most complex part of this build by quite some way, the roof. Wow, this took a long time. Just sat there scratching my head trying to work out how the hell we were going to build this and how we're going to get it to fit together. But it did, and I am very, very happy with the finished result. So we'll look at the most important parts of it here. You can see how it gets put together. The major component will be our old friend, the off-grid glass roof panel. I know we've just had new glass pieces added into the game, but this one has the advantage that it has supports already built into it. And if we do that thing where we copy it on top of itself and spin it around like we did with the aviaries, then that means we get the kind of small square windows, which are a big feature of Victorian architecture and look great straight away. So definitely going to be using this rather than the new pieces. And it's essentially going to be a series of half circles. So you can see we've got a kind of half circle that we need to build here to fill in the indoor space. And then there'll be a second half circle above the top of the indoor cage where the white columns are. And then a third half circle at the other end of the roof to complete it. And then we can just join it up with some straight bits. It's kind of where they join, where the slightly lower roof on the outside part of the building joins up with the slightly higher roof on the inside part of the building that causes the real issue. Getting that to look smooth and getting that to look how it would in real life was a real struggle. But these temple blocks, coloured white, which we've used quite a lot in this park, save the day. Because they're so small, you can use them to build a variety of different shapes, whether you want long flat pieces or tall columns. Lots of options with it. And because it's all the same piece, it goes together nicely, and that helps to add a bit of stonework to the roof where the glass pieces join and keep everything looking tidy. So we've got one of the semicircles at the front there, you can see, and then we're going to start working on the second one here and create a larger circle which will exactly fit over the top of the indoor part of the Allosaurus exhibit. And once we've got a half circle, we'll just copy that to the end and fill it in with straight bits. And then we can create circles with the temple blocks and use that to fill it in and provide an ornate part of the ceiling where the roof joins onto the ceiling that works both on the inside and the outside. As you can see, it starts to look really good in here now. I'm so pleased with how this looks, especially with the fossil motif that we've copied around the curves as well. They meld together really nicely. Now, just a few more glass pieces, and we can get that all joined up and looking good. Copy some more temple blocks down to cover up the join, and then slide that last piece of glass over so the support in the middle meets up with those temple pieces, and we have a roof that I am very happy with. Nice. Right, we've got just 2 more small but important things to do to get this build completely finished. Firstly, we need a standoff barrier on the outside to stop people poking their fingers through the cage. So we're going to use a few of the fence pieces to make a Victorian style fence here. This is where the scaling tool comes in, really useful. Just keep playing around with different fences and fence posts until you got something that looks Victorian. We'll run that down the side of the building and curve it around the end. And then the final thing to do is to add in a little garden at the side of the building here. We're going to make a big Allosaurus statue and use some of the door pieces to make a plinth for it to stand on. Then we're going to go through all the different temperate terrain paints that we've got here to start getting a garden in. And then we'll add some manual bushes and trees and things like that as well. And that is the Allosaurus house complete. Let's take a look at it. I love how it looks through the new entrance. And here it is up close. Let's get the Allosaurus in. It looks amazing stalking past that archway there. And here's the whole building from the air. It's so close to what I envisioned when I decided to try and turn this into an Allosaurus habitat. And positioning it right in the center of the park means you can see it from the entrance gates, and you can see the Allosaurus from the entrance gates, which I really like. Let's get inside. How amazing would it be to stand here this close to an Allosaurus? Animal welfare out the window. It's the Victorian times. We want a spectacle. Let's check out how the park is shaping up from above now. Got quite a lot done in 3 episodes. And in the next episode, we're going to be building a dinosaur version of a bear pit. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you then.